What up, everybody? Good morning. Happy Thirsty Thursday. Dan Kasper Show's on the air. Radio dials, you got a couple of those babies. 105.1 FM, 790 AM, also available online, sportstalk1051.com. Can stream it there, get the video link for YouTube. Otherwise, we're up on Facebook and Twitter. Got your Google and Alexa home devices, and of course, the Sports Talk app. But happy Thursday, everybody. Thank you for making us a part of your commute, part of your start on this morning. We got a few closing, or I should say, delays. It looks like school closings and delays brought to you by Hovland's Service Master Chippewa Valley. Black River Falls delayed a couple hours. We got Melrose Mindoro delayed a couple hours. Bangor delayed a couple of hours too. So again, you can always head up sportstalk1051.com for the latest school closings and delays. What's on the game plan here for this morning? Bucks survived. That's the best way you can kind of summarize it last night against the Toronto Raptors, blowing a big lead there. Toronto forcing overtime, and Grayson Allen hitting the game-winning three with a few seconds left on the clock. Giannis driving the lane, kicking it out to Grayson Allen there in the corner. Nails a three. Bucks escape with a 104-101 victory. So off day for the Bucks. They'll be back home against Charlotte tomorrow, and then on the road for 4 straight games starting next Monday. So Bucks right now, if you're kind of keeping tabs on where everything stands as we approach we're getting close to halfway through this regular season right now. Getting closer. We know the trade deadline's coming up next month. I think I saw somebody post. Remember, because like with trades and that, it's not like you can just like trade somebody right away. They got those different rules. Like after you sign somebody, then you got to wait a few months. Saw somebody the other day post that it's like 11 days now for the Bucks to trade Jordan Nora. So maybe some fans are kind of counting down on that one, I guess. But nonetheless, trade deadline's approaching, and I know we kind of last couple days talked about Chris Middleton and his health. Is there maybe a little bit more going on and that sort of stuff? Could they make a move there? It'll start to pick up here in the coming days, coming weeks here too. But Bucks actually now in the tied up for the second seed in the Eastern Conference. They're right there with the Brooklyn Nets, both Milwaukee and Brooklyn, sitting at 25-13. Both teams 1 game back from the Boston Celtics. Cleveland 1.5 back from that number 1 spot. It's going to go back and forth all season long. So we'll talk some hoops, we'll talk some Bucks and that fun stuff. We've got what else we got? Hey, Brewers actually made a free agent signing, believe it or not. Get jazzed up. They're bringing back Wade Miley. Brewers actually made a couple of moves here. So Wade Miley, remember him, 2018. A nice bounce back year, made some money after that. They're also trading for, or have traded, top 100 prospect Bryce Wilson from the Brits for some cash yesterday. But that was kind of my grind my gears the other day, is that Brewers had spent $0 on free agents. And now they have. They can't say that they haven't anymore. So Wade Miley. So I mean, he hasn't been the same pitcher that he was, obviously in 2018 for the Brew Crew. Last time we saw him in that Brewers uniform last year, the Cubbies, he was 2-2 with a 3.16 ERA, appearing in 9 games. He started 8 of those games for the Cubbies there. Go back to 2021 when he was with Cincinnati. He started 28 games, 3.37 ERA, over 163 innings pitched. So, I mean, not bad there. 2020 with Cincinnati. injuries kind of derailing that. Only pitched a little over 14 innings that year. 2019, the season after, his Milwaukee year, his quick stop in Milwaukee. It was a solid year, 14-6 for Houston with a 3.98 ERA. So I think the big thing is with Wade Miley, can he stay healthy? Can he stay healthy? Can he be available? Now, I don't know, what the plan's going to be for Wade Miley is. I'm sure they're going to say he's competing for a starting spot in the rotation when it comes to spring training and such. Could he come out of the bullpen? Could he do a little bit of both? Possibly. But Brewers adding the veteran pitcher to their pitching staff there. We know like 3 locks for sure. Freddie Peralta, Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff. They would love to. I think they really still see Aaron Ashby as a starter. Will he be a starter this year? Who knows? You got Lauer and Adrian Hauser and that sort of stuff. So Brewers building up their staff, building up their pitchers with Wade Miley coming over, and then Wilson as well. A little bit about Bryce Wilson. Last year he went 3-9 with a 5.52 ERA. Appeared in 25 games. He started 20 of those games. Perhaps what maybe if that name kind of sounds familiar just a little bit with Wilson, probably remember his time with the Pirates being in the but he was also spent some time with the Atlanta Braves too. Yeah, but he's mostly pitched as a starter in the big leagues, but has spent some time in the bullpen and kind of come out of the bullpen here too. Matt Arnold, when he was asked about is he a likely candidate for the rotation or the bullpen, he said, "We are happy to acquire him. He's a former top prospect with good pedigree and has the opportunity to compete for a spot on our opening day roster. He is still young with major league experience as both a starter and a reliever, and we believe he can be solid depth addition to our pitching unit." So, yeah, probably remember him too with when he was 2020. Yeah, this is from Adam McCulvey, where he pitched 6 innings of 1 hit, 1-run ball for the Braves against Clayton Kershaw in Game 4 of the 2020 NLCS. Been kind of inconsistent throughout his career, but that's probably the biggest bright spot of his young career so far. So, Brewers still adding some pitchers. Maybe, hopefully, not done. I think we're all kind of still waiting for maybe one more big move or at least one more batter or something like that. But hey, they got a free agent, so they got off the schneid with that one, I guess. What else we're gonna talk about? Badger football. Luke Fickell continuing to add to his coaching staff. If you've got like Twitter and social media, you probably have seen some of these coaches. They've been posting on Twitter new profile pic with them in their Badgers polo or shirt or jacket and kind of coming out there with some titles and such. But Luke Fickell plucking somebody from PJ Fleck's staff over there with the Gophers. Paul Haynes, co-defensive coordinator from Minnesota. He was promoted to co-defensive coordinator and cornerbacks coach in 2022. He's coming on over to the Wisconsin Badgers. Coming on over to the Wisconsin Badgers. So Luke Fickell nabbing one across the border, moving to the other side of the axe battle, if you will. So, but you've been probably kind of seeing, if you again have Twitter and social media and all that sort of stuff, you've been kind of seeing some of these Badger coaches getting kind of pumped up and getting excited and posting out their new job titles and such. But it looks like Paul Haynes coming over to be the defensive backs coach for Wisconsin. The other day, Wisconsin officially announcing the hires of Phil Longo and Tressel as their offense coordinator and defensive coordinator. So We'll throw a little Badgers chat in there coming up too. So we got that. We're going to lead things off coming up here in just a little bit. Talking some green and gold as the Packers returned to practice yesterday. Pretty healthy. Both teams actually pretty healthy. If you look at the injury reports that came out yesterday with the first day of practice, Packers mostly holding a walkthrough practice, so it was based off of designations. If they would have, they're based off an estimation. So if it was a normal practice, these participation, labels would have been based on that. But anyways, the only person that didn't do anything was Aaron Rodgers. But again, that's nothing to be too concerned about. Otherwise, everybody else would have been able to do something. Same with the Lions. They had a couple guys that were DNPs there, but for the most part, for Week 18 to see these two teams and only a few players on here, and knowing that like Green Bay's all these guys that are on this report, like Bakhtiari and Rudy Ford and Elton Jenkins and Aaron Jones and Keyshawn Nixon and Christian Watson, that they're all going to play. It's pretty darn healthy coming into Week 18. That's a big boost right there. So, but I want to throw a question out, kind of our question of the morning, if you will. What do you think is the biggest factor? And I really want to get your input on this, okay? So hit me up with a text, tweet, or Facebook, video, comment on the video stream, whatever's easier for you. What will be the biggest factor in determining a Packers win Sunday night? Got to pick one. Now, I'll let you leave it a little bit open to interpretation. If you want to pick a player, if you want to pick a position group, if you want to pick, the game plan, whatever, coaching, whatever. But if you got to just pick one, we're not going to go through the whole key matchups and keys to victory. But what do you think is the biggest factor that will help determine or will determine the Packers' victory on Sunday night and a spot in the postseason? What's that one big factor? I've got mine. I'll tell you what it is coming up here in just a little bit. But got a few minutes to think about that. It is a Thirsty Thursday, so if you got any Thirsty Thursday shout-outs, we'll do that. We got a little fired up. What's got you fired up this week? Pumped up, fired up, upset, whatever. You can use your fired up any way you want. We'll do a little receiver defer, but since intern is out, I'm going to ask you to help play along with little receiver defer. So if you could send me your receiver defer questions, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's have a little fun here. So send me some receiver defers. All right. You can hit me up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Twitter at DANKASPER, Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. So send me some receiver defers, send me some Thirsty Thursday shout outs, and what has you fired up? What's got you fired up? So let's get going here. Opening drive. All right. Opening drive. Question of the day. What's the biggest factor that will lead to a Packers victory? And maybe if you want to kind of flip it around, you really want to get some extra credit points this morning, what would maybe be the biggest factor for the Lions to upset the Packers? If you kind of want to go about that route, maybe, possibly. I know we got a couple Detroit fans that tune in, so including Tom from across the pond over there. So got those Lions fans over there. What are your biggest factors for maybe your team in upsetting the Packers? Packers fans, you can kind of take it that way too. What would be the biggest factor that would lead to a loss by the Packers? What do you got for me? All right. I want to hear from you. Let's take that first break. And then coming up, we'll get things rolling. Opening drive, baby, to kick off this Thirsty Thursday. We'll be back after these quick words. Don't forget to get your nominations or suggestions in for what flavor brat we're gonna create and what flavor snack sticks we're gonna create with the help from our good friends over at Mike's Star Market. We know one brat's gonna be Man Cave Light, but we need your help in deciding what the other flavor of the brat is gonna be. So again, just go to our website, sportstalk1051.com, click on the nation tab over there, and then you'll see that icon that says help create our brat. Click on that and you just fill in what you think, or if you have an idea of what you think our flavor of brat should be and snack sticks. And you know what? If we select yours, you'll win a gift card too. So we got some good ones coming through already, but we want some more. All right. We want to we want a big old pile of stuff and get creative. Have a little fun with this too. So you got to do it at our website, though. Okay, got to do it at the website and submit it through there. Got a couple weeks. We'll be doing that. We'll keep that up there. So, all right, let's get rolling here this morning. Opening drive this Thursday. Packers returning to practice yesterday to prepare for their Week 18 game. It sounds like Week 18 is going to play as scheduled. Yesterday, the NFL, because there was one caveat. If you remember when they announced the games, game times, was it on Monday already? Man, that Cincinnati would have played at different times, in the afternoon or a noon kickoff, depending on the result of their game between Buffalo. So if they would have won the game, they would have played at noon this coming weekend. If they would have lost, it would have been an afternoon game because it would have been for the AFC North. NFL announcing yesterday that Baltimore and Cincinnati will be playing at noon. Now, there still hasn't been an official decision on Cincinnati and Buffalo, but maybe the fact that they're playing there kind of gives you that decision there. And if they decide the game is going to be a no contest, Cincinnati would be the division champs anyway. So, but nonetheless, Packers returning to practice yesterday. Kind of already went over the injury report and such. But the question I have for you all this morning is what is the biggest factor? What is the biggest factor in determine a Packers winner? What is the biggest factor that will determine whether the Packers can win on Sunday and get into the postseason? Hit me up with some of those text tweets, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube video, whatever is easier for you to do. Okay, I've got mine, and again, you can pick position, you can pick player, you can pick strategy, coach, whatever. I'll leave that open ended. You just got to pick one though. Okay, got to pick only one. Mine, and I've been harping on this for like the last few weeks, but I think there's something to it, and I think this is going to be my biggest factor. It's time of possession. I know I've been kind of talking about it a lot as a key for like every single game, but I think with this team, that is a huge factor in determining whether the Packers are going to win or not. There's one outlier. So I went through the last, let's say since their Detroit game on November 6th. Okay, let's work our way back until that game. So this game against the Vikings, Green the time of possession, 34 minutes compared to just under 26 minutes. We'll round up. Go to the Dolphins game. Packers edged out Miami. Time of possession, 32 minutes. If we go to the Rams game, Packers out, longer than the Rams, 37 minutes. If we go to the game, Green Bay, again, 2.5. Cowboys, Packers, just shy of 36 minutes. The one out, and then you look at some of the losses here quick against the Titans. So those were all wins that we just went through, right? Against the Titans, they lost that game. Packers lost the time of possession battle. Philadelphia, Packers lost that time of possession battle as well. That one was that Philadelphia had it for 35 and a half minutes. The one outlier in this whole thing is actually that Detroit game. When you go back to November 6th, that's the one that kind of screws it all up here because the Packers in that game actually dominated time of possession. 34 minutes and 42 seconds to be exact. But if you remember, that game was also the game where Aaron threw those two picks in the early end zone, where two picks early in the game in the end zone. It's like, oh boy, they were getting it down there, getting in the end zone, and just stupid turnover, just dumb. But I think with this team, with how they're made up, with how they play, their style, I think time of possession is the biggest factor. And honestly, my second one was turnovers. If I had to rank them, my second one would have been turnovers. Winning the turnover battle. Packers defense the last couple of weeks have just been, dominating in terms of getting turnovers, getting picks, fumbles, that sort of thing. That was my close second. But with this offense, with this Packers offense, having those 6, 7-minute drives, keeping high-powered offenses like Minnesota off the field or Miami off the field, I think is going to be a big key for this upcoming game against this offense from Detroit as well. We talk about defense and trying to slow these offenses down. But I also think to kind of help out that defense or to play or to add an extra level to that defense is playing some consistent offense and keeping your own offense on the field for those long drives. And the key part in that too is making sure you're coming away with touchdowns, which Green Bay has struggled with, getting into the red zone and coming away with touchdowns on a consistent basis. But staying on that field and then coming away with some points. That plays in part to, your defense slowing down this Lions team, this Lions offense. So to me, the biggest factor in determining this is going to be time of possession, long extended drives. There's it's kind of an umbrella, time of possession, and you can have, other things under it. Defense getting off on third downs. Packers offense having long sustained drives and not quick 3 and outs. There's different parts to this time of possession, area. But that's where I think this is where this offense kind of thrives. It's not the Packers offense from a handful of years ago where, they were quick strikes and, putting up points right away and maybe doing a little hurry up or something like that. They're methodical, matriculating the ball down the field type of offense right now. We haven't seen a whole lot of hurry up, right? We haven't seen a whole lot of we saw it against Minnesota, tried to see it against Miami, but we haven't seen a whole lot of, Aaron trying to catch teams or opposing defenses with a lot of players on the field. Not as much as we've seen in the past. Once in a while we'll see it, but not a whole lot. We don't see a whole lot of hurrying up, and that's the style of offense. They bring in a lot of different players, a lot of different packages once in a while. But they've got to stay on the field. They've got to stay on the field on offense. But, and like that last Lions game where they stayed on the field, they had those long drives, but don't turn the ball over, come away with touchdowns. Can't throw an interception in the end zone a couple times. I mean, come on. It wasn't for those interceptions, those picks, Green Bay probably has that win against Detroit. They probably do in that 15-9 loss. But that to me is the biggest factor. I mean, I don't think there's not really a right or wrong answer in this thing, but I just feel like with this style of team, that's the biggest determining factor in getting a win on Sunday against the Lions, keeping their offense, keeping the Lions' offense off the field as much as possible, and keeping the Packers' offense on the field as much as possible, but coming away with those touchdowns too instead of field goals. Got to be able to come away with touchdowns and not settling for field goals. That's like the and if we wanted to kind of draw, other parts to this again, that umbrella that goes to like red zone, I think too, is like, okay, once you get to the red zone, you've got to have touchdowns. They've got to figure out what's going on with some of their red zone issues. Can't settle for field goals. For whatever reason, it's kind of been a bugaboo. Like a couple years ago, what was it? Was it the COVID year where they were really good in the red zone? Was it that year? Maybe was it the first year under Matt LaFleur? I'll have to double check it, but or the gold zone when they called it when Nathaniel Hackett was the offensive coordinator. And I think too with, you can probably factor in the loss of Devontae Adams has a little bit of an effect on their red zone ability, maybe, possibly, but they gotta figure out ways and the thing is too is, like, we've seen some very creative play designs when it comes to the Packers being down in the red zone. A couple times we've seen those, double fake handoffs, and then there's a wide open Mercedes Lewis in the corner of the end zone. We've seen creative stuff like that. Then we've seen some just ridiculous, stupid plays where it results in like a 12-yard sack inside the 20, or even sometimes where it's just at the edge of field goal range, and then they have somebody misses an assignment or something, and then they take themselves out of field goal range. Can't do that. Not only just for this game, but once you get to the postseason, especially, I don't wanna look too far ahead because I don't want anybody overlooking the Lions in this thing, but I mean, if Green Bay does win this game on Sunday, it probably will be a matchup against the 49ers, and you wanna talk about a game where you have to, like, play mistake-free football, there you go. That's gonna be a game right there against the 49ers. And I've been seeing some people, I think it was, Matt Schneidman, who covers the Packers for The Athletic, made a tweet yesterday that, he thinks if Green Bay can get past the 49ers, to get to the postseason, and they get past the 49ers, and, maybe he thinks maybe they can make a run to the Super Bowl, and his biggest belief is because of David Bakhtiari. Let me see if I can, bring that up here, bring his tweet up here in just a hot second here. Um, yeah, I would like to once again say the Packers win the Super Bowl 2 years ago if Bakhtiari doesn't tear his ACL. Remember, that was the NFC Championship game they lost, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If the Packers win Sunday night and he remains healthy, a Super Bowl run wouldn't stun me. Oh, is the biggest alright, that maybe there's another question right in there. Who's the biggest factor in terms of a player, or who's the biggest key player? That might be something we throw out there next week if Green Bay is able to get into postseason. But who is the biggest factor player-wise for a run to the Super Bowl? Is it Aaron? Is it Bakhtiari? Somebody on defense? Is it Jair? Is it, defensive lineman, Kenny Clark or something like that? But, whew, I don't know. Something to kinda ponder maybe if we actually get to. So, but think about it for a little bit. What do you think is the biggest factor in determining a win for the Packers on Sunday? I went with time of possession. My second one would have been turnovers because you look at the last couple weeks here, the Packers have dominated the turnover differential. Defense has been getting their picks, getting some fumbles. Packers haven't been turning the ball over. Their plus and minus has been outstanding the last couple of weeks. That would be probably my second one there, is winning that turnover battle, not turning the ball over, and getting some turnovers against the Lions. Jared Goff hasn't thrown an interception, we said it, since week 9 against the Packers on November 6th. He hasn't turned the ball over since. He hasn't thrown an interception since. And the Packers get to him and make that turnover or get him to, feel a little uncomfortable and perhaps force some turnovers there. I think the factor that we playing at Lambeau Field outside numbers wise, the Lions haven't played that well on the road this year. Now they've won 3 out of their last 4 on the road, but overall so far this year they're 3-4. But if we take a deeper look at some of the stats, and credit to Zach Cruz who posted this up there too. Points per game on the road, 19.3. At home, the Lions have averaged 33.1. A big difference. Yards per play at home, 6.32. Away, 5.46. Touchdown passes, 23 at home, just 6 on the road. Jared Goff's passer rating at home, 109.3. On the road, 87.6. Even yards per carry, 5.1 at home, 3.8 on the road. Their third down percentage is down, 46.8 to 34.1. They've turned the ball over more on the road, 6-9. So, I mean, numbers right there. There's some statistics for you. Lions, they have won 3 of their last 4 on the road after starting to 0 for 3 on the road. And they have been in outdoor environments their last 4 road games. Bears last week, Giants, Jets, Panthers. But Green Bay may be a little bit different there. Just a little bit different. But I think there's something to that. The biggest thing to me that pops out with all those numbers that we just kind of went through is the points per game and the passer rating. That's the biggest one that kind of pops out to me. Can the Packers take advantage of that? Can that defense take advantage of that? I want to see if I can find a nugget too about Lions time of possession, maybe on their some of their road games compared to their home games. That might be a project during one of these breaks. Take a look at that. All right, before we take a break, got to give a shout out Keyshawn Nixon. The Packers this year, people, believe it or not, have had 2 players named as special teams players of the week. Pat O'Donnell, remember earlier in the week or earlier in the season? And now Keyshawn Nixon was named the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week for Week 17. Believe it or not, the Packers actually have special team players that are pretty solid, that are pretty good. Besides Mason Crosby over all these years, but they've done it. They've done it. Shout out. There's a Thirsty Thursday shout out to Keyshawn Nixon. So, all right, we're gonna take a quick break, and then coming up, what's got you fired up? Can be a good thing or a bad thing. We'll be back. My fired up is pretty darn easy here on this Thursday. It's one win and in. One win and in. Because, well, a month ago, a little over a month ago or so, it sure didn't look like it. And I don't know many people who thought that they were going to do it, but here we go. And one more win, and the green and gold are going to be in to the postseason. I don't know how long the run of the postseason is going to be, but I don't care at this point because once you get to the dance, anything can happen. So, my pick for fired up, pretty darn easy this morning. Packers one win away from going back to the postseason. All right, let's take a quick phone call here this morning. What up, C-Bomb? What's got you fired up this morning?
Good morning, El Capitano. You got me fired up, my brother. I'm ready to go for this game.
All right. What?
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, here's the thing for me, and you touched on time of possession. And I think time of possession is going to be huge, but the winner of this game wins the turnover battle.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is to me. You know, people, this isn't the same old Detroit Lions. I mean, they're the number 3 offense in the NFL. This team can score and move the ball, and they can do it both ways. I mean, they're, you know, if you look at if you break them down, it's not like they're throwing for 400 yards a game. It's 253 yards passing a game, 130 yards rushing a game. They score 27 points a game. They are an all-around complete offense, and we cannot lose the turnover battle because you keep giving the ball to an offense like that, they're going to put points on the board, and we'll be playing from behind. So for me, it's the turnover battle along with that time of possession. But you touch on it a little at home. We're at home, and we saw what happens to the likes of the Minnesota Vikings when they had to get out of their nice controlled environment. So hopefully we have a little bit of that advantage as well this weekend.
Yeah, I'll have to double check. I thought, was it when the Rams came a couple years ago in the postseason, I thought there was a nugget about Jared Goff in like 35-degree weather or something like that where he's winless or something. I'd have to double check that, but I see if that's still a thing or something. But I thought I remember that when he was with the Rams and they came over and there was that nugget about Goff and playing cold weather or something like that. I don't know if that's still a factor or not, but I think you look at the numbers that we went through just a little bit ago, you know, his passing numbers on the road this year, he's had a good season, but road is definitely not the same as being in the comfy confines of Detroit there for sure.
That is correct. And I think Goff has played very well for them. Look, this Lions team is up and coming, man. I mean, look what they're doing. They don't have household names now. They're doing this with the likes of DJ Chark and, you know, outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's becoming a superstar, you know, Jamal Williams. Green Bay didn't keep him. Well, they've turned him into a touchdown scoring machine, 1,000-yard rusher. So Dan Campbell's got something going over there in Detroit, and they might be scary in coming years here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
definitely.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think we win the turnover battle, we win the game, and we're off into the playoffs.
Who would have thought, man? And who would have thought there?
Yeah.
Holy moly!
Yeah, a month ago, it was like we were on our last thread, and I saved the receipts, boy. Everybody that was calling for Jordan Love, saying the season was over. Like Aaron Rodgers said, there was always as long as there's a mathematical chance, they got something to play for. And boy, oh boy, I mean, the guys like Nostradamus, he's done this a few times, you know, run the table, RELAX. We still have a shot. I mean, you can't count the guy out. And he's not playing like the Rodgers of the last couple of years. I mean, frankly, he's played well. The problem is we compare him to himself, but he hasn't played Aaron Rodgers football. So, I mean, if he can, you know, get doing what he's done the last couple of years and moving forward here to finish out the season, it could be special.
So, you know, not to be a negative Nancy here or anything, but you know what's going to happen, C-Bomb. Let's say they go to the postseason and they lose in the first round. You know, those people that you're keeping receipts on, you know, they're going to come out and say, well, see, was it worth it just going to the postseason for one game? What would you say to them?
I would say you're damn right it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the postseason, we've come to think that, you know, we have a right to be in the postseason as Packer fans. And it's not that simple. You know, the team, we have a successful organization. Would it be disappointing to be one and done again? Absolutely. And that'd be frustration. But, you know, people just ignore the fact. It blows my mind how much we take what Aaron Rodgers does for granted with this team and this organization. Because, you know, you're going to tell me that, you know, and Jordan Love may have played great, but do you think that the team wins all these games, that I don't know. I don't get it. I'm kind of get at a loss for words because that's what people will say too.
Mm-hmm.
The haters will just jump out of the woodwork, so happy with glee, kind of like we all were with Minnesota getting destroyed. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'll tell you what, they got everything in front of them, and they got something to play for, which is fun. So considering where we were a month ago, I'm ecstatic about where we're sitting.
I did find those numbers, and I don't know if they're accurate since Goff has played with Detroit. But heading into that postseason game when he was with the Rams, Goff had only played at that time 2 games in weather under 30 degrees, and he had a combined passer rating of 34.5, 47.2 completion rate, 0 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So again, that was when he was with the Rams. I'd have to double check it though when he was if what those numbers would be like with the Lions. So, but still, something to look at.
Absolutely. It is a different animal, man. It's playing out in the elements. These guys are human. Your hands get cold. You can't operate like you normally do. So who knows? Mm-hmm. I do know that I hope Green Bay pays a lot of attention. They give the Justin Jefferson type treatment to Amon-Ra St. Brown because boy, that kid's something else.
Yeah. Put Jair over there and mix up those coverages like they have been since the bye week. You look at since that bye week, this is a little bit of a different defense. There's C-Bomb mixing in different guys. Enos Gaines has been playing a little bit. I've been seeing other players out there. Hey, before I let you go, I got a question. For you. You ready for this? I need your help.
Oh boy.
And I need your help. No, it's
okay.
I need your help. So you don't have to answer it now. We think about it, but I'm hoping this will spark other people to give me their thoughts too. So it's not just for C-Bomb, it's for everybody else out there. So what do you think of the, I want to get more people's input. Like you call, C-Bomb, you give us your thoughts and all that. Should we do something called an armchair quarterback where people can listeners can submit long form ideas, their rants, their analysis. Maybe that's the best way to put it, through our website. You know what I'm getting at? I want to hear more people's deep thoughts, if you will. You think that would work on our website? What do you think?
Well, I don't see why it wouldn't. I know there's a lot of guys out there and a lot of gals out there that have very opinionated thoughts that they'd like to get off their chest. I would love it. I know some listeners myself, Big Worm and Surveyor Sam and even Philly Fan Dave, guys like that would like to chime in if they had a platform to do so.
Long form one too. I'm kind of thinking about. So should we try her?
Yeah, might as well.
I'll
jump on and do it.
You can write and we'll feature them on the air. If it's for if you're too shy, maybe to text or, anything like that, and you don't have Twitter, you can do it that way. What do you think?
Heck yeah. Get it out there. I'll jump on there.
All right. Well, we'll try it. We'll see what happens. Do you know if Surveyor still has that Reddit page going?
You know what? I got to check that. I got a new phone, and I don't even know if I put Reddit on it. I'm going to have to check.
Yeah.
I think he does have it going, though, still.
Okay.
So I'll check that out today.
All right. Well, Surveyor, if you're listening, let us know. Maybe we'll get that going there, too. So, all right, C-Bomb, get ready for a football Friday, okay? Tomorrow.
You bet you, brother. Super excited. Can't wait. Thanks for having me, man.
You got it, buddy. There you go. There's C-Bomb hopping off here this morning. Tony, Bloomer Tony, with a quick text. Morning, Dan. I'm fired up because last time I texted you a month ago, I called the Packers making the playoffs. I had faith in them the entire time. My keys to victory, Jared Goff's small hands and a cold football. That's why he can't win in cold weather. Go, Pack, go. So, all right. I am really curious, though, if we put up something on our website, so it'd be part of the nation out there, where you can send us your long form analysis, and you could pick anything that you want to, analyze or whatever. You know what I'm getting at? Or if you got some suggestions on how to alter that or edit that, I'm open. But I want to get a good group going. I want to get a good group of armchair quarterbacks going here. So give me your thoughts. All right. Maybe we'll put something up there and see if we can get any hits on that thing. But all right, we only got a couple minutes left. So I am looking for your receiver to first. So we don't got an intern here this morning. So I need you guys to play along with me. Send me your receiver to first. text it to me on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. You can tweet it. You can Facebook it. You can post it on the video stream if you'd like. But this is your chance to kind of throw in some receiver defer questions. Can be anything. All right. Send those babies on over. Send those babies on over. We're going to do some sports nuggets coming up in the next hour. I already did my, we'll do some sports nuggets there. Then we're going to talk some Bucks. Bucks escaping with a victory on against Toronto. So we'll hit that up. Also, we've got our outdoor tidbits coming up at 8:30. So we'll catch up with Mr. Jacob Folks and hit up a little quick outdoor tidbit at 8:30. We're going to chat some Badger football, adding another coach, plucking it from PJ Flagstaff over there with the Gophers. So also keep your biggest factors coming in. What do you think is the biggest factor for the that would help determine a Packers win on Sunday? Biggest factor in your opinion? Can be a player, can be maybe scheme, coach. I went with time of possession. My second, it was a close second. I'm only asking you guys to pick one, and I'm kind of breaking my own rule here. I understand that. But my second was turnovers, winning a turnover battle, because the Packers the last couple of weeks here have done a fantastic job of winning the turnover battle. And I know the other day we talked about, Joe Barry and maybe should he get some more credit. But I think, after that bye week, this defense has come out with different schemes, different coverages, and that sort of thing. So maybe a little tip of the cap. But about a challenge, again, coming up with Detroit. So I know we're all anxious to talk about postseason and that. And it's hard for me not to kind of look ahead, but we got to take care of business against a very tough Detroit team. All right, 1 hour in already. Keep your fired ups and your thirsty Thursdays coming at me. Take a quick break, and then after these news updates, we'll hit up some sports nuggets of the day. All right, second hour kicking off on this Thirsty Thursday. Who do you want to give a shout out to? You can hit us up with a text, tweet, or Facebook message if you want. Coming up here in a little bit, we're going to get back to some more Bucks talk. Bucks picking up the victory, escaping Toronto with a victory. Off day today for the Bucks before they take on the Hornets at home and then start a 4-game road trip next week. So we'll hit that up. We're going to talk some more Badgers too. Badgers adding to their coaching staff, all that good stuff. Keep your key factors. What's your biggest factor in this game? Or what do you think? Let me rephrase that. Biggest factor in determining what will propel the Packers to win on Sunday. Your biggest factor. So, and then also if you got anything that's getting you fired up or has you fired up, you can let us know there too. So, but we kick off this second hour with some sports nuggets of the day brought to you by Ansi Insurance. 1920, the New York Yankees on this day purchased Babe Ruth from the Boston Red Sox for $125,000. Wayne Gretzky in 1983 scored his 100th point of the season. He achieved his 100th point in only the 42nd game of the season. We got a couple older ones here. 1931, Lucille Thomas became the first woman to buy a professional baseball team. She bought the Topeka franchise of the Western League. 1934, both the National and American Baseball Leagues decided to use a uniform-sized baseball. It was the first time in 33 years that both leagues used the same size ball. 1993, Mike Ditka was fired as coach of the Chicago Bears. So those are just some of your sports nuggets of the day presented by Ansi Insurance. Before we get to some Bucks chat here, the NFL announcing I should say not the NFL because they are separate entities. The Pro Football Hall of Fame revealed the 15 finalists, modern day finalists for senior committee members as well. But in case you missed it last night, and seeing some of these names makes me feel a little bit more older now too. But your modern era player finalists: Jared Allen. We all know Jared Allen, right? Pass rusher, started his career with Kansas City, solidified it with the Minnesota Vikings. Willie Anderson, offensive tackle for the Bengals. Rondé Barber, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Defensive back Dwight Freeney, pass rusher, mostly with the Colts. Devin Hester, getting in for his punt and kick return abilities. Torrey Holt, Rams. Andre Johnson, Texans. Albert Lewis, corner, longtime corner for the Chiefs. Darrell Revis, we all know him, right? Cornerback, former Badger, and then Cleveland Brown, Joe Thomas. Zach Thomas, linebacker for the Miami Dolphins, DeMarcus Ware, longtime edge rusher for the Cowboys, a couple years with the Broncos. Reggie Wayne, wide receiver for the Colts. Patrick Willis, San Francisco 49ers, and Darren Woodson, safety for the Dallas Cowboys. The senior finalists, Chuck Howley, Joe Klecko, and Ken Riley, and contributor coach finalist, Don Coryell. So, again, Sterling Sharp not making it for the senior finalist. Like to have seen him get there. I thought last year, kind of trending there. Maybe still will. But, yeah. Was there one more on here? No, there wasn't. Okay. So, I mean, I think the one lock on this one is going to be, in my opinion, I think a lock is Joe Thomas, the former Badger. I still remember watching his draft when he was fishing, right? He was the 3rd overall pick, wasn't at the draft, he was fishing, but they had a camera on there. It was the coolest thing in the world. I think Joe Thomas is a lock, to make the Hall of Fame. Um, I think Darrell Revis is probably going to make it on there too. I mean, just because he was the best corner when he was playing on there. The Devin Hester one is interesting to me because it's kind of changing. I mean, he's going in for his punt return and kick return abilities. So, if you were a voter, would you vote a punt returner, kick returner game? Has it, now it's like a few years ago, there was a talk with, when they moved the kickoff and it's like, kind of taken away from the return game. Yet, now we're seeing it for Packers how much of a difference a returner can make in a game. We saw it with Desmond Howard back in the '90s. Now we're kind of seeing it with Keyshawn Nixon and such. But there was some talk about, well, is Devin Hester, Hall of Fame worthy because of punt returns, kick returns, that sort of thing. He did make. Remember a couple years ago when they redid the top 100 players, he was on that team, quote unquote team, because was it 2010, 2011? They ranked the top 100 players. This was a little bit different. It was that Bill Belichick, Chris Collinsworth thing. That was on the NFL Network, and they revealed the team, but Devin Hester was on there. But he made it to the top 15, which is, a little surprised like Steve Smith didn't make it, because you look at some of his, he's got more career receiving yards than some of these other receivers that are on there. But I look at this and I see, again, it's stacked with receivers and it's stacked with edge rushers, and it's going to get a little bit more crowded with some edge rushers because Julius Peppers is going to be eligible next year. So I kind of wonder. I feel like at times when it comes to the Pro Football Hall of Fame committee, sometimes they kind of take a look at it and be like, all right, this guy may be a little bit more deserving, but, maybe to open up a future backlog or a log jam, or, this guy's waited a little bit longer, we're going to put him ahead of this person. I feel like that sometimes that happens, and I don't agree with it. But I do kind of wonder, I guess what I'm getting at is I kind of wonder, are they going to put in an edge rusher or two this year, because it might start to get a little log jammed. Remember when we saw that with the receivers? Maybe it is still a little bit with the wide receiving group here too, but because you got Andre Johnson on there, you've got Reggie Wayne, you've got Torrey Holt. I think Steve Smith's eventually going to get in at that point, but I think I think if there's two locks on here, it's Darrelle Revis and it's Joe Thomas. And then I think you're going to see an edge rusher or two come off the board and get in there. They'll get their max of, was it 5 on there, I think? Yeah. And I think all the senior finalists and the contributor will get into, because they usually do. So, but that's your class. I was kind of hoping to see that maybe Sterling Sharp would get in as a senior finalist, but maybe next year. Sure seemed like last year it was trending in that direction, that he was going to get it's trending in a direction of these players with shorter careers. Patrick Willis, remember, he only played 2007 to 2014, retired early. He's a finalist. You're starting to see that switch. We saw it with TD getting in, a couple other players, last year, Tony Baselli getting in. I will sure hope they start to really consider Sterling Sharp, because that dude, in an era, we've talked about it how many times, in an era, a generation that was just loaded, freaking loaded with wide receiver talent. 90s, right? Jerry Rice, Sterling Sharp, Michael Irvin, Chris Carter, Jim Brown. Those guys, besides Sterling Sharp, are all in the Hall of Fame, but you can make the case Sterling Sharp was probably better than the majority of those guys. Top two, put him there with Jerry Rice and such. Dude was freaking phenomenal. Just talented as all get up. Well, I hope, if you're going to open the door for those players, and I've got no problem opening the door and allowing players in that, shorter careers or careers shortened by injury. You're going to do that, you seriously need to start looking more at Sterling Sharp, because his numbers were just phenomenal when he was playing. Phenomenal. His second year in the league, 1989. 90 catches, over 1,400 yards, 12 touchdowns. 92, 108 catches, over 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns. 93, over 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns. 94, 18 receiving touchdowns. Whew. Even got some MVP votes in 92 and 93 for crying out loud. I mean, come on. Give this guy some love. That's my opinion. I might be a little biased because, he's obviously, Packers and all that sort of stuff, but got to give that guy some love, especially if you put in like Tony Baselli and such. And I got no problem with Tony Baselli. I kept picking him. I thought he was going to get in earlier, but I think too with the Devin Hester thing, it's changing the game. It's you get these kick returns. I don't know if there will be if that'll open the door for other special teams players to get in. I don't know. Maybe if there's more that kind of come down. I mean, I remember, Dante Hall was just on a fantastic run of returns. Remember Dante Hall with the Chiefs there? I mean, Desmond Howard, that's not going to open the door for Desmond Howard to get in, for if anybody's thinking that. That's not going to happen. Devin Hester, he's got the most career touchdown returns with 20 touchdown returns. 20. Second is actually Deion Sanders. A little fun nugget there, return touchdowns. Then it's Rod Woodson. Both those guys are in the Hall of Fame, but defense, Rondé Barber is on this list too. Charles Woodson. Wow, I didn't know that. Kick return yards. You've got Brian Mitchell's got the most. He did it like forever. Yeah, he did it forever. 14,000 yards. He's got 13 total receiving yards. Yeah, Dante Hall's got 12 total return touchdowns. But there was that one year where he was just lights out. Over 10,000 kick return yards. Devin Hester, he's got 20 return touchdowns. 7,333. But he's also played in the fewest amount of games with the guys above him. Like Brian Mitchell played in 223. Devin Hester played in 156. Dante Hall, though, only played in 112. Let me see. Kick return average. I'm kind of curious to see where this one's at. Cordero Patterson's actually on this list. You got some guys on here that, some of the numbers kind of affect it based off the amount of times they return the ball and such. But I don't know. There was kind of an interesting debate, though, on Twitter whether Devin Hester should be a Hall of Fame type of player and such, or more deserving than, I think the big one out there I saw on social media was Steve Smith. Devin Hester getting in as a finalist above Steve Smith. And you look at it, and I think it kind of catches people off guard a little bit when you kind of look at Steve Smith's numbers. Because, here, I'll bring it up right here. Steve Smith is 8th all-time in receiving yards, career receiving yards. Of the top 10, everybody is in the Hall of Fame besides Larry Fitzgerald, who he will be. He's got the second most receiving yards of all time. I think Larry Fitzgerald, that might surprise people too. Is like, dude almost had 1,800 yards receiving, second all time. But Jerry Rice is number one. I don't know if anybody's going to catch him. He was just shy of 23,000. Jerry Rice is number one. Larry Fitzgerald, T.O., Hall of Fame. Randy Moss, Hall of Fame. Isaac Bruce, Hall of Fame. Tony Gonzalez, Hall of Fame. Tim Brown, Hall of Fame. But remember, it took a while for Tim Brown to get in there too. Then it's Steve Smith. Marvin Harrison, 9, Hall of Fame. Reggie Wayne, 10. He's a finalist. Andre Johnson, 11. He's a finalist this year too. So I think Steve Smith's going to get in, but I think we've seen it from receivers over the years that it takes a little bit, unless you're a guy like a Randy Moss, or I think Larry Fitzgerald's going to be a number one first ballot Hall of Famer in there. I think he'll get in. But the receiving one too is so interesting because you look at some of these guys, like Anquan Bolden is 14th all time in receiving yards, 13,779. I don't think he's going to get in. But Julio Jones is behind him just a little bit. Julio, I think if he would play another year, is probably going to break it. 13,629. But Torrey Holt, who's a finalist this year, is right behind Julio Jones, 13,382. But again, Torrey Holt only played from 99 to 2009. Fewer games than some of these other guys. I want to kind of digest there a little bit too. Henry Ellard, I know he's been talked about as a guy that needs to get in there from other people. From other people I've talked to, he's 15th with 13,777. I know there's been like a push too for Hines Ward to get in. He's at 12,000. He's 27th on that list. Anybody wondering if Donald Driver is going to get in? I don't think so. I don't think he'll get in. He's got the 10,000 all time, 10,137. That's 51st of all time, but there's going to be more. I don't see that happening. Don't hold your breath on that one. I know that it's everybody loved Donald Driver, but he ain't going to get in. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to talk some Bucks. So, Bucks escaping with a victory last night against Toronto. Drew Holiday missed the game again, dealing with some illness. You got Chris Middleton still missing time. Trade deadlines next month with these injuries and illnesses going on. And are you getting a little nervous with your Bucks, or do you? I guess the better way to phrase this would be get more antsy for the Bucks to maybe make a move. It's kind of mentioned in the first hour. I saw some people kind of talking about, hey, we got like 10, 11 more days than the Bucks can trade Jordan Nora. I don't know what you're going to get for Jordan Nora, but as we've seen in the NBA before, you can trade players for like contracts and cap space. Teams will take on players to open up some cap space and maybe spend a lot in the upcoming free agency and that sort of thing. So I guess never say never, but when you factor in this Chris Middleton injury situation, the rumblings out there and the rumors that is there a little bit more going on in that, make it a little bit more important to make a move. I don't know if I can see Chris Middleton being that. I know Luke mentioned it yesterday that Bill Simmons mentioned on his podcast. Is there like a Scottie Pippen situation going on with the contract and all that? I don't know. I can't see Chris Middleton doing that. But how many times have we thought that would never happen to a certain athlete, or an athlete would never do that? And they've surprised us and done exactly that. We've seen it a few times. All right, quick break. Then we'll be back talking some Bucks. New year means it's time for some new floors. So start your 2023 off in style with a brand new floor from Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire, Wisconsin's largest flooring supplier. Carpet City Flooring Center has the perfect floor that will rejuvenate that space of yours that has needed an upgrade for a while now. You can choose from many different styles and options, including the Rigid Max floors. I like to think of Rigid Max flooring as the official floor of Wisconsin. Rigid Max floors, because Rigid Max floors are freeze and thaw stable, waterproof, kid and pet friendly, superior noise reduction, extreme dent, impact, and scratch resistant. And if that doesn't scream the official floor of Wisconsin, then I don't know what does. And they come in many different styles, like the Bourbon Barrel, which happens to be one of my favorite. And Rigid Max floors are only available at Carpet City Flooring Center. You can see them for yourself by stopping by today and chatting with the incredible staff at Carpet City Flooring Center. They're ready to help answer any questions you have, from selecting that floor that works best for you, your home, and your budget. So start 2023 off in style with some of the new flooring from Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. Bucks picking up the victory yesterday, or I should say last night, against the Toronto Raptors in a quick back-to-back. So a couple wins in a row now for the Bucks after they got the win Tuesday night against Washington, win last night against Toronto. Although they blew the lead there and Toronto was able to force overtime, Grayson Allen hitting the game-winning shot in the corner. But Bucks right now tied with the Nets for second in the Eastern Conference, game behind Boston. And, we mentioned it yesterday. Bill Simmons on his podcasts made a note that Milwaukee is a mess. There's rumors about chemistry going on and weird stories floating around about them now. Now, I don't know exactly what stories the weird stories he's throwing out there. I mean, chemistry issues, if we're talking on court stuff, I mean, this is a team that, Chris Middleton's only played a handful of games. Drew Holiday's been missing some time. They've had different players inside that lineup. Joe Ingles missed, big part of the first part of the season. Pat Connaughton missed parts the first season. They're back in play here now too. So you're adding those guys in. Joe Ingles is a new player, maybe starting to figure out the chemistry there. But the chemistry part is, I don't know if they're referring necessarily to the chemistry on the court or chemistry within the locker room. Guys getting along and such. But I mean, if it's stuff like on the court, I can kind of see that because of so many injuries and I guess illnesses too, and guys coming back from that or missing time from that. So I can see that. I don't know what the weird stories are floating around. There's speculation about Chris Middleton with the contract. Remember the Scottie Pippen thing? Don't watch The Last Dance and you'll know it. But I don't know. I don't know. But, you got the trade deadline coming up on February 9th. So we're a little over a month from there. But you're starting to hear more. I shouldn't say hear, but maybe if you're kind of following some stuff online and such, maybe you're seeing some trade proposals or ideas, people throwing out ideas who the Bucks should go after. I feel like the Bucks are going to make a move with John Horst as general manager. He has shown that willingness and that ability to make a move. And I feel like, they need for me personally, I would like another creator, another person who can create with the ball, another shooter. Jay Crowder is still out there as, if you want to talk about adding a defensive person. I saw the other day that Shams from The Athletic, who covers hoops, Milwaukee has been attached to Jay Crowder since the beginning of the season. But apparently the Bucks were willing to offer players and 4 second-rounders in a 3-team trade for Crowder recently. Players and 4 second-rounders. We kind of talk about the Los Angeles Rams. What was it last year? Would they even make up shirts saying screw them picks, draft picks and all that? Bucks are kind of maybe the same way here a little bit too, although they weren't like the Timberwolves trading all those first rounders for Rudy Gobert and such. But whew, I mean, it seemed like they desperately want Jay Crowder. I mean, he would give you a physical defensive presence, wing, another wing player over there. Now the players, I mean, we can speculate on who those players would be. It's probably the same players that have been mentioned since the beginning of the season, like a Jordan Nora. I know Grayson Allen is still mentioned as a possibility, but I think, at this point with like injuries to Chris Middleton and such, do you want to really move on from Grayson Allen because he is a shooter? He can give you some 3-point shooting and such. I think now, at the beginning of the year, there was that talk Grayson Allen for Jay Crowder and such. But with the injuries, I mean, are you really comfortable in moving on from Grayson Allen because he is a shooter, he is a 3-point guy? Do you want that depth? I think right now maybe his stock is a little bit higher, just because you don't know how the injury situation is going to work out. Chris Middleton, how much is that knee going to affect him throughout the rest of the season? I don't know if I necessarily would want the Bucks to move on from Allen right now at this certain point in time. I think some of the untouchables, if you will, or some of the guys that won't be moving on. Giannis is the exception. Obviously, not Drew Holiday. Probably not Brook Lopez. Probably not. I think those are guys that are going to be in Milwaukee. But it's going to be interesting to kind of follow along to see where the Bucks do decide to make a move, who they bring in. I feel like they're going to make moves. Maybe it's one, maybe it's a couple, but I feel like they are. And I think you look at the Eastern Conference and just seeing how top heavy that thing is, you're going to see a race, I feel like, with some teams trying to make some moves to get an advantage, to get an edge. And that might also mean that the prices are going to go up. You got Boston, you got Milwaukee, you got Brooklyn, you got Cleveland, you got Philadelphia. Philadelphia is the 5th seed right now, but Philadelphia is 2.5 back, just 2.5 back from the 1 seed. You've got those 5 teams that, and we're not even talking about some of the Western Conference teams here with Denver, Memphis, Pelicans, heck, even Dallas. But if you're just looking at the Eastern Conference right now, you're looking at, teams competing against each other for some potential trades here. Prices are going to go up. Those teams on the bottom, or those teams that are willing to move on from some of their better players, they recognize what's going on at the top. They recognize these teams kind of battling out with each other. They're going to ask high. And some of those teams might get a lot for a player, more than what originally was expected, just because of the demand for it. I mean, would it shock you at all to see Boston and Brooklyn and Milwaukee and Philadelphia competing for the same players on the trade market? No. Denver, Memphis, especially maybe like teams like a Memphis that, hey, they might want to add another veteran to their younger squad. These teams are going to look for that player because, again, I'm focusing most on the Eastern Conference here because I think it's so top heavy. But they're just going to be doing battle against each other to try to find what's going to put them over the top against the other creams of the crop. And do the Bucks have enough trade assets to acquire those? Are they willing to move on from some other players, some of their current players, to make these moves? They did it in their championship year, bringing in P.J. Tucker. Obviously bringing his physicality, his defense, and that. That's where there's been some comparisons about, Jay Crowder, similar to like a P.J. Tucker type of move. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to bringing Jay Crowder to Milwaukee, but again, for me, the thing that's just hanging out there is Chris Middleton and that health. Because if that's going to be something that's going to bother him throughout the rest of the season, he's going to continue to miss games here and there, and maybe even the postseason, then the Bucks have to address the need of getting another shooter. They gotta go out there and get another shooter, another guy who can create with the ball in his hands and create off the dribble. At least that's my opinion. So I feel like, kind of the longer this goes and the closer that we get to the trade deadline and such, might be a little nuts, if you will. But yeah, otherwise, besides, I haven't really seen any other rumors or reports out there about Bucks potential trades and that sort of thing, besides the Jay Crowder one. That's kind of been the main one here. I haven't really seen anything else like players attached to the Bucks and potential trades. So, we'll see. It'll probably be somebody that we didn't expect. Although, I mean, if we believe a lot of these rumors and a lot of these reports, it sure seems like the Bucks are hell bent on trying to get Jay Crowder. Like that's the guy they want. That is the guy that they want. All right. I need some receiver defers. Send those on over. Okay. Play along. Send me some receiver defer questions. I know you got them. You guys and gals are intelligent people out there. So send me some receiver defers. Okay. I need your help. Text it to me. That's the easiest way to go about it right now. 715-830-1912. Give me some receive or defer so we can finish up the second hour. Then coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, we'll kick off the 8 o'clock hour with a little Thirsty Thursday shout-outs. If you got any shout-outs, send those on over. Also, your fired ups. Got a couple we got to get to here yet. And then we'll catch up with Jake Bulks at the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour, too. So we'll take that quick break, and then we'll finish up the second hour with a little receive or defer after these words. Well, hey, maybe this latest round of wet and heavy snow and slick roads has made you realize that you've got to get your vehicle ready. You got to get your vehicle better prepared to hit out on these roads. Well, ASAP Used Auto Parts, your go-to location for some new tires for your vehicle. You need an oil change. Oil changes are definitely really important for your vehicle, especially in the winter. They do that as well. Colder temps. I know it's been kind of warm, but we're probably going to be due for some colder temps coming up here. So you want to make sure your vehicle starts in the morning. Then you can get a new battery from ASAP Used Auto Parts, or maybe you need to replace an auto part because some of those rough roads have done some damage to your vehicle. ASAP Used Auto Parts has huge selection of high quality used auto parts to help you save some of your coin in your wallet. So check them out, ASAP Used Auto Parts, right here in Eau Claire, just on Menominee Street. You can see their fantastic building right across the Dodge over there. You can also check out their Facebook page, visit their website, asapusedautopartsec.com. All right, let's do some receiver defer. Thank you to those of you who sent over some receiver defers. That's what I'm talking about. You guys, you're my guys right there. So let's do it up. Let's do it. All right, let's give Surveyor the honors, going with a little bit of a different route. I like this, mixing it up here a little bit, Surveyor. I like it. Receiver defer. Ranch is overrated. Defer. I'm a big ranch guy. I'm sorry. I think you're probably gonna come after me now, Surveyor, but I'm a big ranch guy. Even on certain pizzas, like if it's a very thin crust, cheap frozen pizza, where you just got to get something in your belly, I'll put a little ranch on that thing too. I'm a big ranch guy. It's one of my top condiments, so deferring on that. Living the dream, Jeff. Morning, Dan. Receiver defer after the second year of defensive players reportedly stepping up and saying the Packers defense needed to simplify and change the scheme. Will Joe Barry be back next year? I'll tell you what. I think he's back next year. I know that's going to upset probably a lot of Packers fans out there. I think he's back next year. Especially, I think too. We'll see what happens in the Detroit game. But I mean, if they make a little bit of a run in the postseason, and a lot of it has to do with their defense, I think Joe Barry's back next year. I really do. Again, I know that's not the popular pick. People aren't going to like it, but I think Matt LaFleur is going to stick with him, and he's going to be back next year. That's just my thoughts. My gut right now telling me that. The wild card I know for a lot of Packers fans out there is going to be Jimmy Leonard. He's out there right now. I don't think he's got a job. I don't know if anybody's talking to him about a job. But I just right now that's how I feel. How I feel. Receive or defer. With the addition of Wade Miley, are the Brewers positioning themselves to be able to move one of their top starters for a big bat? Interesting question. That's an interesting question. So I mean, if you're referring to, let's say, Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff, because they signed Freddie Peralta to that cheap deal a couple of years ago. They got Aaron Ashby under a long-term cheaper deal. So I'm assuming you're referring to Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff as your top two. Boy. I'll say defer, but I'm not confident in that either. I'm not fully confident in that thing. Wade Miley signing up for 1 year, $4.5 million. That's giving me some pause to think about, though. I think the Brewers will go into the season with Woodruff and Burns and such. They'll go into the season with those guys. But I feel like if things aren't working out, and it's clear that, they're not a playoff team. They're not going to make the playoffs. I think they'll be traded by the deadline this upcoming season. Because you've got to at least get something for one of those guys. You've got to get something. Otherwise, it's just bad business. We all know that they're probably not going to keep both those guys under contract. They're not going to be able to afford it. The only other thing, I know there's it was my grind my gears the other day, and I know a lot of people have mentioned this, and maybe this might be a question for Brandon tomorrow too. But Brewers, this was their first free agent sign. This first money that they spent was Wade Miley. They finally signed a free agent, finally spent some money. And, the question is, what the heck are they waiting for? We keep hearing, hey, they're not, rebuilding. Their goal is still playoffs and World Series and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? We keep hearing those sound bites from the owner, from the GM. We hear that, but yet we see some of this stuff, and it's like, but how can you say that if you're not doing anything? The only thing I could think of is, are they maybe, just maybe, slightly negotiating with one of these starters for a long-term deal? Maybe. Trying to lock one of them down? If it were me, my pick would be Corbin. I think Corbin, though, would probably cost a little bit more than Woodruff. I mean, you got a Cy Young award from just a couple years ago. That's got to be worth a little bit more to your resume, I would think. But maybe, and maybe that's just the optimistic outlook on this. Optimistic look at this is like, okay, they're not spending, so maybe are they trying to lock up one of their starters? Then they'll see, kind of assess what else they can do to build around it. Maybe, I guess. Again, that just might be overly optimistic on my part. But I don't think they'll trade one of those guys, and I could be completely wrong in this thing. I mean, I know it's David Stearns and such, but I don't think any of us kind of maybe thought Josh Hader would be traded during the season when they were, in a spot to make the playoffs. But lo and behold, they did. So I guess never say never, but I'm going to defer on that one right now. I'm going to defer. I don't see it. Receiver defer. Bucks will trade Chris Middleton before the deadline. I will say defer on that. I don't think they'll trade him. I mean, right now, who would want him? A guy can't get on the court, to be honest with you. He can't get on the court right now. I don't think they'll trade him. I do think the Bucks make a move, or maybe a couple of moves before the deadline. I think you can look at, John Horse's history. He ain't afraid to acquire some talent or make some moves and make some trades. He's not afraid to do it. And obviously he has the permission to do whatever, that he sees best fit to improve this Bucks team. So I think they'll make a move, but I don't think it'll involve Chris Middleton. I'm going to defer on that one. Now, could it be Jordan Nora? Yeah. But again, how much are you going to get for a player like Jordan Nora? And then with the other popular name that has always been attached to trade rumors has been Grayson Allen. But, if this knee issue is going to be something that bothers Chris Middleton throughout the rest of the season, do you want to trade one of your shooters? And if it's for a guy like Jay Crowder, who's, defensive guy, are you willing to do that? I don't know. I think the longer that Middleton stays out, and, Drew Holiday's been missing some time, I think the value of Grayson Allen is probably a little bit higher now, just so you have another outside shooter there. Maybe that's just me, but let's catch up on a couple of fired ups here. Surveyor Sam, I'm fired up about Luke Fickell. In 1 month, he has created the greatest quarterback room the Badgers have ever had. Kept Braylon Allen, convinced some of the players to stay instead of transfer, and sniped one of PJ Rowe the Dingy Fleck's top assistants, who has turned out multiple NFL caliber corners. This is a time to get fired up for next year. We've got Big Worm. Key to victory this Sunday and throughout the playoffs is 12. I'm not quite sure if that thumb is still bothering him, but he's been a shell of himself this year. Still waiting for that breakout game. Just doesn't seem like himself. Adrock, Devin Hester could affect the game immediately and belongs in the Hall of Fame. He could flip the field, switch momentum, change the game immediately. Steve, not a Hall of Famer, but Billy White Shoes Johnson was electric. He did make the top 100 in that couple years ago. What was the Bill Belichick and Chris Collinsworth one. So he made that top 100 one there. But yeah, that's a good pick too. Billy White Shoes Johnson. He should be in the Hall of Fame. I would agree with that one. No doubt about it. So all right. Hey, thanks for the receiver defers, everybody. Appreciate that. All right, we're gonna get cut off here with the shot clock. So coming up, we are gonna do a Thirsty Thursday. If you want to do any shout outs, now's your time to text those babies on over, okay? Then we'll talk a little Badgers. Surveyor mentioned it. Badgers, Luke Fickell grabbing a coach from PJ Fleck. Throw that in there. We'll touch on a little Brewers before we catch up with Jake at the bottom of the hour, Wisconsin DNR Warren. So, again, I guess if you got any really last second questions for Jake, you got to send those babies in right now. All right? Any ice fishing questions, anything like that, do it now. Text it now. Okay? 2 in, 1 to go. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Final hour on this Thursday morning. Dan Kasper Show on the air. Appreciate you all tuning in wherever you're tuning in, however you may be tuning in. Coming up in about, what do we say, 25 minutes or so, we'll catch up with Mr. Jake Bolks, Wisconsin Conservation Warden. Will be joining us. Last night, Blue Golds back in action for some hoops. Men's team taking down Oshkosh 51-48. Women's team also defeating Oshkosh 62-53. Coming up this weekend, we'll have the Blue Gold women's basketball game on the radio dials right here, 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Tip off around 5 p.m. So make sure you're tuning in to that. Otherwise, we got a busy weekend too. Men's will be visiting Whitewater. Women's hockey, they're at St. Norbert. Men's hockey, they'll be taking on St. Mary's here at Hobbs. You got wrestling going on too. Men's hockey's and women's hockey also getting slated. Having some games tomorrow too. Men's taking on St. Olaf tomorrow at Hobbs. Women's going to be at St. Norbert's tomorrow too. But wrestling, the NWCA National Duels in Louisville, Kentucky. So you can catch up on the latest results and schedules by visiting bluegolds.com. All right, let's do some Thirsty Thursdays. All right. Who you got for your Thirsty Thursdays? Who do you want to give a shout out to? All that good stuff. My Thirsty Thursday, you know what? I'm going to go with Matt LaFleur. I'm gonna go with Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur got a lot of flack in the beginning part of the season. Probably still is getting a lot of flack from some people out there. But you know what? The fact that they're in this position, the fact that he kept that locker room together, he kept those players focused. They could have just packed it in. They're one win away from going to that postseason. You know, Matt LaFleur, I know there's been a lot of talk, his first couple of years, all those wins. Well, yeah, but he had Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, he did. No. This run here, or I guess, the fact of how they're finishing up here, he's gone through some adversity, inconsistency. But I'm going to buy that man a beer. I'm going to buy that man a beer, and I might buy him 2 beers if he gets a win on Sunday night against Detroit. So I'm going to go Thirsty Thursday shout out to Matt LaFleur because he may not be getting enough attention. And I get it, still overall didn't hit expectations. Get in the postseason, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when they get to the postseason. But right now, I'll give a little love to Coach LaFleur over there. No doubt. So, all right, let's kind of do a little bit of a smorgasbord here. Let's talk some Badgers first off. Then we'll get to a little bit more Brewers here. So, Badgers yesterday, we kind of mentioned it or talked about it in the first hour, but the Badgers plucking a coach from across the border over there with the Gophers, hiring one of PJ Fleck's defensive coaches, co-defensive coordinator Paul Haynes. So it sounds like he's going to be coming on over to Wisconsin. He spent 2020 and 2021 as Minnesota's cornerbacks coach, and this most recently served as their co-defensive coordinator. Paul Haynes is also a former head coach at Kent State, and he has worked at places like Michigan State, Arkansas, and Ohio State. So definitely bringing a lot of experience and Big Ten experience over to this program for the Badgers. Also, Badgers, sounds like they've got their safeties and their special teams coordinator, Colin Hitchler. So it appears that, again, it was kind of like one of those, I don't know if this had to have been planned, but a lot of the Badger coaches were going on Twitter and social media and changing their pictures and hashtag new profile pic. But he was Colin was co-defensive coordinator and safeties coach under Fickle at Cincinnati. But he will be coaching, it looks like, the safeties and oversee the special teams group. UW also officially announced on Tuesday Mike Tressel would be the defensive coordinator and inside linebackers coach. Phil Longo, he would be the offensive coordinator officially and quarterbacks coach too. So rounding out the staff, Luke Fickell is. I know he did the little talk at the Kohl Center the other day for the game and such. But and somebody had asked earlier in the week if we know who the receivers coach is, and it's Mike Brown. Mike Brown is the receivers coach for the Badgers, former NFL wide receivers coach. He was also the passing game coordinator, again coming over from Cincinnati, where he was with Luke Fickell too. So Mike Brown is that receivers coach. So, but hey, I like what Luke Fickell. Surveyor Sam has kind of already mentioned it. We've been talking about the last couple of weeks here about the quarterbacks and the transfers and all that stuff. Oh, Mike Brown is associate head coach too. I should have mentioned that was part of his Twitter thing there too. But anyways, I'm fired up with what Luke Fickell is kind of building right now. I know I already did my fired up. This would probably be another one here too. I think if you're a Badgers fan, you got to be excited right now with the potential here. Not only with the quarterbacks and the transfers and the guys that they're getting, but I like how this coaching staff. I like the coaching staff he's building. I really like it. There's a lot of experience with this group. Jack Bicknell Jr. is expected to be the offensive line coach for the Badgers. And for the longest time it was offensive line Wisconsin, bread and butter, right? So Bicknell Jr., he is actually from UNC, so he's going to be following Phil Longo to UW. But just kind of his background, he played center at Boston College, 1981 to 1985. Numerous different spots. He's spent, Carolina in 2021 season. He was at Louisville. He was at Auburn, Ole Miss. Spent some time with the Dolphins as an assistant offensive line coach. Was with the Steelers offensive line coach, Kansas City Chiefs offensive line coach, New York Giants. So he's been up and down between the college ranks and the pro ranks there. A lot of experience there with the offensive line. I like this staff that Luke Fickell is building. I really do. This coaching staff, a lot of experience. Then we'll see if it actually, works out and such. But so got that. Flipping over to the Brewers here for a couple minutes here. As we talked about, Wade Miley, he's coming back to the Brewers, 1-year deal, $4.5 million. $4.5 million. The first free agent this year. Why that is, I don't know. Why that's the first one, I don't know. I already threw out my speculation, but Brewers also acquired a right-handed pitcher, Bryce Wilson, experience starting and coming out of the bullpen. Here with the Pirates, he was 3-9. He appeared in 25 games, started 20 of those. Throughout his career, he is 9-17 with a 5.54 ERA. His highlight of his career was probably that 2020 NLCS matchup with the Dodgers going up against Clayton Kershaw, 5 2/3 innings there. He spent the first couple of years of his career with the Atlanta Braves. 2020 was his best year, appearing in 6 games for Atlanta that year, 4.02 ERA, started 2 of those. But Then you kind of look at, Atlanta. He spent parts of 2021 with both Atlanta and the Pirates. So, I mean, you look at the numbers and you look at, his career ERA and that sort of thing. Nothing really jumps out to you. Nothing probably gets you too excited about him. Matt Arnold talked about him a little bit about acquiring him. And this is what he had to say. We're uh, happy to acquire Bryce. He is a former top prospect with good pedigree. He is a former top 100 prospect overall, and has the opportunity to compete for a spot on our opening day roster. He is still young with major league experience as both a starter and a reliever, and we believe he can be a solid depth addition to our pitching unit. You look at so far of how the some of the pitchers. And the other day, the Brewers signed Alex Claudio to a minor league contract. So, I mean, he's a former Brewer there too. Maybe he will. I'm sure he's got the opportunity to compete for a spot on the opening day roster too. But you kind of look at some of the pitchers that the Brewers have on their roster right now, outside of their top two starters. And by the way, if anybody's wondering, Alex Claudio spent some time with the Mets for a hot minute in 2022, appeared in 3 games, pitching only 3 1/3 innings, giving up 1 hit. But before that, he was with the Angels. Struggled a little bit there too, 5.51 ERA. Anyways, you look at some of the pitching depth on this Brewers team. You add in Wade Miley. You got Brandon Woodruff, Corbin Burns, Freddie Peralta. Those are your top 3 at the rotation right now. Those are clearly your top 3. Then I think it's kind of open right now, 4, 5. Just my opinion. You got Aaron Ashby, you got Eric Lauer, you got Adrian Hauser, but those guys have also have experience coming out of the pen. I know Eric Lauer would prefer to start, was it that comment he made a couple years ago that he'd prefer one way or the other, so better prepare and that sort of thing, and prepare. He'd rather be a starter and such. But you've got Lauer, Hauser, Ashby. Throw in Wade Miley into that as well. If you go on the depth chart for Brewers.com, they've got Lauer and Hauser and Ashby listed as part of their rotation. But you look at those guys and you add in the Wade Mileys and the Bryce Wilsons, you have a little bit of flexibility. Maybe that's probably the best way to kind of go about it. You have some flexibility there. Guys that can maybe give you some spot starts. Guys that can maybe give you some long relief coming out of the bullpen. Do you go to a little, tag team start, as we've seen some teams do over the years? Or that quote-unquote bullpen start? So you got some flexibility, it sure seems like, with some of these Brewers pitchers where, they've got the starting experience, but they've also got some bullpen experience. And that provides you a little bit of flexibility. And we knew that the Brewers, one of the biggest things that they had to really improve this year or this offseason was their bullpen, was getting arms in their bullpen. And you can tell that has kind of been a focus so far. Now, whether you think these moves are going to really bolster the pen or not, we'll see when the games actually get rolling and that sort of thing. But that's kind of what the Brewers have gone about their business so far. I look at it, though. I know the Red Sox just signed their third baseman to a monstrous free agent deal. And you kind of look at, the best free agents available at certain positions right now. And, third base, I think that's still probably a position that a lot of Brewers fans are still kind of wanting to see maybe a power bat or to see somebody come in over there, maybe put Luis Urias over at second base. MLB.com just a couple days ago, their best third baseman available is Brian Anderson, Miami. And last year, he hit 222, and he's dealt with some injuries. I mean, he hasn't played in 100 games since at least 100 games since 2019. But last year, 222, on base of a 311, slugging of a 346, and his OPS of a 657. So, I mean, does that trip your trigger at all? It doesn't really trip my trigger. He was, started off his young career hot, looked like a really good, promising career. First couple years, 262, 273, 261, his best season statistically. That 2018 season, 273. He only had 11 home runs. 2019, he had 20. He's not a big power guy. And so what else is out there maybe for the Brewers to go and get? If you're thinking, okay, well, what's out there for first baseman? Hey, Jesus Aguilar's still out there, but I mean, they got depth there at first base. I think if you're going to get a first baseman, you want like a legit, okay, that guy's going to be a starter. He's gonna give you some. Brandon Belt's out there, but again, last year for the Giants, he hit 213 with 8 home runs. The year prior, he hit 274 and 29 home runs. But is there anybody that's out there better on the first base market currently available? Hosmer just signed with the Cubs. Second base, just because since they traded Colton Wong, Josh Harrison, former longtime Pirate, spent last year with the White Sox. He hit 256, but only 7 home runs. And if you're kind of mostly concerned about pop and power, I just don't know what else is out there. I don't know what else is out there at this point. So I just kind of wonder now. It's like, they're really gonna throw it in for their youngsters, the Bryce Terrangs, Garrett Mitchell. When you look at the outfield, going to be relying on that. And I don't know. I knew I kind of threw that speculation out in receiver defer. I'm going to ask Brandon this tomorrow if I remember it. But, we hear the sound bites from Mark Anasio and Matt Arnold. The goal is the same: postseason, World Series. Postseason, World Series. That's what we're competing for. But you look at some of the offseason so far, and it's like, do you really feel like you have a team that can do that? Do you feel like you have that team that can do that? You're not spending anything. Yeah, you made a couple trades. You got a good young catcher coming in, Contreras. We know you got top 3 starters over there. I'm curious to see how the banning of the shift is going to affect the Brewers. I think it'll help out a couple players. But do you really feel like the lack of moves and you're still like, you're feeling good? That's where I'm wondering, like, and again, this could be clearly me being way too much of an optimistic Brewers fan. Maybe are they saving some of that money for a deal for one of their starters? Maybe, possibly, hopefully. Trying to get something done there. Locking up like Corbin Burns or such for a few years. I'd be okay with that. I also think if you're going to do that, though, you better make sure that you are able to compete for the next, while you have them there too. But, and that's the thing is, like, if you are going to lock up one of your starters, it's going to cost a lot. And I'm talking, when I say one of your starters, I'm talking Burns or Woodruff. It's going to cost a lot. If you're going to lock one of those guys up, you're already paying a lot to Christian Yelich. You really need those youngsters to come in and perform. You better have a lot of confidence. You better have a lot of confidence that those youngsters can come in and contribute at a high level. You're going to be putting a lot of pressure on them. I think what pitchers and catchers already report next month already. I think that's accurate. I'll have to double check that, but I know we got the email the other day getting ready for the Brewers games for 2023 on the radio. So, believe it or not, it is actually coming up pretty darn close. So, all right. Hey, what else? Our question of the day here, before we get to a Football Friday tomorrow, what is the biggest factor? The biggest factor that will decide, or the biggest factor in the Packers winning the game Sunday night against the Lions? I would say informally, it's pretty close 50-50, time of possession, turnover battle. Those are the top two from a lot of you right now. So looks like we're kind of thinking the same thing here. My number one was time of possession. My number two was turnover battle. So it seems like we're all kind of on the same page here a little bit. But what do you think is the biggest factor? If you got something else, or maybe you got a player, or maybe you're singling out a coach or a position group, I want to hear from you. So hit me up with a text, okay? 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, or on Twitter at DANKASPER, Facebook.com /Kasper Sports. All right, tell you what, let's take a quick break, and then we'll get Jake on here, all right, for a quick outdoor tidbit this morning. So it's been a couple weeks since we chatted with him, so we'll do that now. Stick around. We'll be back after these words. All right, it's Thursday, just around 8:30, so you know what time that is. It's time to catch up with our good friend, Mr. Jake Bolks, Wisconsin Conservation Warden. Jake, it's been a couple weeks. Happy New Year, bud. Hopefully everything's going well with you. How you doing? And you're not there. You're not there. All right, we'll see if we can get him to call us back there. But I think he hung up on us. I don't know. Gotta text him here quick. Okay, yeah, he's coming. All right, so we'll try this again here for a sec. Good old technology. Gotta love it, right? Gotta love it. So, but no, we're going to talk a little ice fishing with Jake. We had a couple questions about ice fishing and such, so we'll get to Jake here in just a minute. And I know a couple of you had asked about there's been an update with like the wolf hunting, and that I swear our studio's haunted because that button gets pushed randomly all the time there. So let's see if we got Jake now. Jake, how you doing, bud?
Doing good. How are you guys this morning?
We're doing good, man. We're doing good. Did you have a good New Year, good holiday? I know it's been a couple weeks since we chatted with you. So how's everything at the household?
Yeah, everything was good. It was good holidays, good times. No complaints. Nothing too crazy with work or DNR either. So got out and did some patrolling and stuff, and nothing too crazy.
Good deal. So hey, I know right now, with all that snow that we got over the last couple weeks, a lot of snowmobilers probably anxious and ready to hit the trails and that sort of thing. Are trails open around our neck of the woods right now?
So there are open trails, but I would caution everyone to make sure, you really make sure you plan out where you're going to be riding this time of year or right now. I was going through all the local county websites before we're chatting here, and Eau Claire is completely open except for there's a corridor over on the east side of the county that's closed because I think there's a lot of tree damage. But all the other counties around us, Dunn, Russ, Chippewa, have partial openings. Some of them are open. Some of the trail sections are open. Some aren't. And actually, Chippewa just closed yesterday or 2 days ago. So actually, Chippewa is completely closed. So it's really important right now. If you want to ride, there are open opportunities, but you got to check the website. It's a really easy Google search.
Yeah, definitely good stuff there. So, and then make sure you're registered and all that stuff with your snowmobile, right?
Yeah, definitely. Make sure you got the registration. Make sure you got the trail pass. A lot of times you buy your trail pass online or wherever, they're not going to have the stickers ready to go. They're not going to ship them out immediately, and I don't think they have them down at the service center. So what you need to carry with you is just a piece of paper, and it's going to say trail pass temporary operating receipt. Basically, it's just like the paper version of it. I think it's good for 45 days, which is long enough to get your sticker. Just hold on to that while you're riding.
A couple of ice fishing questions from some people here, Jake. One was just kind of general. Is there any different regulations when it comes to ice fishing compared to like spring and summer fishing?
Nothing that is super obvious or nothing crazy. It's a lot of the same stuff. The things you got to make sure of is make sure you check seasons. There are certain seasons that close in the winter, like muskie and stuff, that would be open in the summer. And then trout actually is opening up for the early trout, which is catch and release and no bait or no live bait. Sorry. So there are some different things. As far as ice fishing, it's still like 3 hooks, lines, or lures or baits. So you got your 3 lines. You need a fishing license. Fishing license go through March 31st, so you can ride it out through the winter, stuff like that. Nothing too crazy.
Dustin actually had a question. You mentioned the lines there. And he's like, Jake, is an AquaView fish camera while fishing considered one of your 3 lines?
No. So if you're just using the fish camera, kind of like using a Vexlar or a Markham, that wouldn't count towards your lines, because I say lines. Everyone says lines. You get 3 lines, but the way the law is actually written, it's baits, hooks, or lures. So you get 3 baits or 3 hooks or 3 lures. The AquaViews, any sort of
GPS system or whatever, fish finder system, you're going to be good to go.
Okay. So, and I asked this question. I remember I was in the summer that whole walleye tournament, ordeal thing
Yep.
with the weights and that. In ice fishing, we have a lot of ice fishing contests, that's going on. With those contests, I mean, I would imagine DNR regulations still in effect with those ice fishing contests too.
Yeah, with those contests, all the DNR regulations are still in effect, unless there's some special, unless there's some real special regulation. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm. No.
If there's some special regulation that removes it, then you can't have it. But for the most part, everything's the same. You just need to make sure you're following the rules and not cheating for their specific tournament regulations. The one big thing I see with ice fishing tournaments where people end up getting in a bind is they get a fish, they want to go register it at the tent or the shack or wherever they're registering them, and they leave their tip-ups out. So you do have to be able to respond immediately to indication of a bite. So if it's a tip out, a flag, or a tip down if it goes down. So a lot of people leave their tip-ups out because they're only going to be gone 5-10 minutes. But once you leave and you're out of sight, now you're in violation and you have unattended lines. So if you're going to go register a fish or something in a tournament, pick up your lines so you don't get a ticket for unattended lines.
Really quick off that too, some contests have those tagged fish. Do they got to get that approved by the DNR? Do you know?
I think a lot of them do have some sort of permit, but I haven't been a part of those, so I'm not super familiar. Mm-hmm. But usually those things have some sort of permit and insurance that go with it.
Gotcha. Interesting. And I know a couple people asked about the wolf thing here, and if you got anything to add, but I was kind of looking it up here too, because there was an update on the comments on their new wolf management program, and the release here said that the DNR released their first new wolf plan in almost 25 years in November. The plan doesn't include specific statewide population goals, recommending instead that the DNR, with the help of advisory committees, decide whether to reduce local populations. DNR officials initially planned to take comments for 60 days, but the agency has now extended the deadline to midnight, February 28th. So that was the latest news update. I know a couple people.
There's going to be a lot of questions on if we can hunt, how much. None of that's going to be set in stone for a long time. Mm-hmm. And really, the best thing to do is just wait to see what you see on the news. Unfortunately, that's how we get updated as well. As usually we see it on the news or something like that. Mm-hmm. But right now, it's just kind of status quo. I'm just waiting.
Last question. Somebody just texted this in, Jake. Can you use four-wheelers on snowmobile trails?
The short answer is no, but there are some trails that are open to multiple use vehicles. So the Buffalo River State Trail, it runs along Highway 10, Trempealeau, Jackson County area. So that one is actually any vehicle. It's actually open year round, so you could run a snowmobile on there in July if you wanted. But most snowmobile trails are going to be strictly for snowmobiles. Most county forest trails are going to be strictly for snowmobiles in the winters, but sometimes they are open to ATVs. So the most important thing to do, kind of like I said, when you're looking to see if they're open and closed, check if they are open to ATVs in the winter, or when you get to the certain trails, look for signs. A lot of them say what they're open for, whether it's just snowmobile or both.
All right, good stuff. Jake, we got to get you in studio coming up here soon for a long form interview if you're up for that.
Yeah, no, it's been a while. I'd love to get in there and chat with you guys.
Awesome. Well, we'll set that up. I'll text you off air. Okay, bud?
That sounds great, man.
All right. Well, you have a good rest of your day, and be safe out there, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, you too. Everyone drive safe. It's still a little slippery.
All right. Good note. All right, Jake, have a good one, bud. There you go. There's Jake Bolks, Wisconsin Conservation Warden, joining us for a quick outdoor tidbit this morning. Hey, let's catch up on we got a lot of text to catch up on. I'm just going to get through a couple of them here. Then we got to take our final break for some closing statements. Yes, time of possession and turnovers for sure. If it's a close score, the coach clock management will be key. MCDC, Motor City Dan Campbell, was terrible with this last year and beginning of this year. I'll be happy for either team to win, for Rogers Legacy or for New Hope Lions. Well, hopefully the Rams can help out the Lions then too a little bit there and take down Seattle. We got, was this Matt from Baronet? All right, shout out to Baronet up there, Barron County. Red zone efficiency will decide the game. Another text. I think it has to be Lauer and Ashby rounding out the 4-5 in rotation, with Miley as the occasional sixth starter. So we got a few more. We'll try to catch up on those before we close up shop here this morning. So, but we got to take a quick break now. Our final segment. Then we'll cover some bases and closing statements and all that fun stuff. So we'll do that right now. Final thoughts. Send those babies on over. All right. We'll be back after these really quick words. If you missed portions of the program this morning, we'll put it up on our latest episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. Don't forget, subscribe to the podcast. If you could do me a favor, just subscribe to it. It's free. It's on your favorite podcasting platform. But even better, if you can give it a 5-star rating, a positive comment, so other people can find the podcast. Appreciate it if you could do that. So otherwise, you can listen to it at sportstalk1051.com or on the Sports Talk app. All right, let's cover some bases here this morning. How about this, Nugget? So one of our questions, and honestly, it was really right around 50-50. Biggest factor in determining a Packers win. It was either time possession or turnover battle. We had a few red zone efficiencies, that sort of stuff there too. But it was pretty close to about 50-50 there. How about this for a nugget for the turnover battle one? This from Zach Cruz. Lions, they're 7-1 this year when not turning the ball over. 1-7 with at least one turnover. Packers, last 4 games, 12 takeaways, averaging 3 per game. Jared Goff, as we've mentioned, 0 interceptions over the last 8 games. Packers, last 2 games, 6, half a dozen. Something's got to give, right? So we'll see. But that's a little good nugget right there. I thought that just popped up on Twitter here a little bit. So tomorrow we'll really deep dive into it since it's a football Friday. Key matchups, other keys to victory, predictions, all that fun stuff. So let's bring in a good football Friday tomorrow. All right, let's do it up. Other stuff that we chatted about here this morning. We've got the Bucs getting that W against Toronto in overtime, thanks to Grayson Allen hitting the corner 3 there. But Bucs blew a decent lead there, and then at least got it done in overtime there. We talked some Brewers with the signings of Wade Miley and the acquisitions of Bryce as Bryce Wilson over there too. So we talked to Badger football coaching, kind of starting to shape up and fill up there. So we got that on the docket there. Did our outdoor tidbits. We did our Thirsty Thursdays. We did our Fired Ups. Big thanks to everybody who sent over some receiver defer questions on there. What else do we got? Some stuff that we may have missed. I see Devontae Adams. Yeah, a lot of it, obviously, last week or so with the Derek Carr. Derek Carr ain't going to be with the Raiders next year. And Devontae, we all knew that was a big reason why he went over there was Derek Carr. But he said the other day he hopes kept in on the loop on the quarterback decision, but did say that he still wants to stay a Raider. Wants to return, but wants to be in the loop on the quarterback. At first I didn't, but I really wonder if Brady's going to go over there. I wonder if Brady's going to go there. Josh McDaniels, familiarity. The GM's a Patriot guy, familiarity. He's got Devontae to throw it to, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller. Defensively, they've got to get a little bit better, but they got nice pieces with Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, and such. I just feel like maybe Brady's going to be the guy that goes there. I didn't know if I was going to buy it about a month ago, but now I'm starting to buy that thing, and he's going to be around again for another year. Oh, my goodness. This offseason is going to be weird with quarterbacks. I talked about it in the latest episode of the Man Cave podcast, but you look at some of these teams, you got like the 49ers, okay? If Brock Purdy leads them deep into the postseason and maybe even to a Super Bowl, they got to make a decision with him. Jimmy G, they were talking about before he got hurt that he was going to come back. They traded a boatload of capital for Trey Lance. I mean, they've got some depth there. Packers, Jordan Love. Aaron comes back. Do you keep Jordan Love for another year? Pick up the option and that such. Then you got teams like Washington that can't figure out their quarterback position. Sam Howell is going to be starting. The Colts, what veteran are they going to sign for one more year? It's kind of a joke. But, and then, like the Raiders, Derek Carr ain't going to be there. So who are they going to bring in? The Jets, I think, were a quarterback away from being a playoff team, but now they're like doubling down on Zach Wilson, for crying out loud. So this is going to be a weird, crazy, strange offseason when it comes to quarterbacks and shuffling around the league. And then the Lions too. Like I'd be curious from our Lions fans out there. I know we got a couple. Do you want Jared Goff back? I mean, you look at, he's had a solid season, but for the last couple of years, there's always been the talk about the Lions got to get a quarterback early in the draft. They got to get a quarterback. So do you want Jared Goff back, and maybe you still invest a little bit more on defensive help? I mean, your offense has been pretty darn good this year. So, I mean, and then Titans, I mean, we'll see what happens with Tua. It's kind of all over the place right now. Russell Wilson broken. Can you get fixed with whoever they're going to hire as a coach? Carolina's probably going to draft a quarterback. It's going to be nuts. Absolutely nuts. I don't even know how to predict that thing. I feel like we're going to see a team that's going to trade up in this draft to get one of those quarterbacks. I really feel like it. And then I heard this morning too, or no, it was last night, that the Bears are starting Peterman at quarterback, and Justin Fields could probably break Lamar Jackson's rushing record, but he has a sore hip, so they're sitting him down. But now there's talk like, oh, are they going to play for that first pick? Because they're in the running for the first overall pick in the draft, and they're not going to get a quarterback. They're not going to draft a quarterback, so would they go one of the edge rushers, defense, maybe an offensive lineman up there, or could they get the first pick and then maybe trade down a couple of spots and get some more capital that way? One of those teams that's desperate for one of those top quarterbacks out there? Oh, but it's going to be between the Bears and the Texans for that first overall pick. If it's the Texans, we know that they're going to get a quarterback. They got to draft a quarterback, right? That it's going to be Bryce Young or something like that. They got him. Will Anderson. I know Alabama is kind of up there. Carter from Georgia, the defensive lineman, maybe. Bears go and maybe grab one of the receivers. TCU Johnson. So we'll see. But we got plenty of time to talk about that stuff come after the football season and such. Plenty of time. I was looking at a mock draft the other day. That's why I throw that question out to some of our Lions fans out there. One of the mocks, just kind of looking at it now, CJ Stroud going to Lions. 6th overall pick from the Rams. Or would you rather see them go after one of those defensive players, one of those they've got some edge rushers, Aiden Hutchinson and such, but maybe a corner or maybe a linebacker, an interior defensive lineman or something. I don't know. Lots of time though for that to play out. Let's finish up this season first before we get to that. So, all right, coming up tomorrow, we'll catch up with Brandon. He'll be in. We'll do a little inside the training room with Dr. Crow and talk to him about Chris Middleton and obviously with Damar Hamlin. Latest update, by the way, Damar Hamlin, his father actually addressed the Bills team yesterday and said that Hamlin is making progress. He remains in critical condition, still in the ICU, I believe, but it sounds like he's making some positive progress right now, and we'll kind of keep you posted on any updates. But it's been kind of just a little bit here and there the last couple of days, and so far it's been slightly positive, like it's trending upwards. But we'll definitely talk to Dr. Crow about that too. It is a football Friday, so we'll do some keys to victory, other key matchups, predictions for not only Green Bay and that, but it's the final regular season game, so we'll kind of set how we think our playoff brackets are going to look like with these picks and such. So we'll do that coming up tomorrow. We got Bucks taking on the Hornets at home. We'll hit that up, kind of talk a little hoops as well. We'll talk some Brewers with Brandon since he's in too. Get his thoughts on the Wade Miley signing and the lack thereof, a lot of free agent signings so far for the Brewers this offseason. Could it maybe potentially mean that they're working on some extensions? I don't know. We'll see. Again, maybe that's just me being very, very optimistic in this whole thing. So, but it's going to be a busy day tomorrow. We got Cream of the Crop. We'll do a Carpet City Flooring Center sports spotlights. And then we'll do a little shootout as well with Brandon on tomorrow too. So get ready to send over your keys to victory and all that. Get ready for a big, big, big football Friday tomorrow. All right. I want you to bring the noise. I want you to bring the enthusiasm. I want you to bring it all tomorrow morning. Okay. Let's do it. Even if you are the Lions fans, let's bring it, man. Let's do it. DP and the Danettes, they're up next. Have a good rest of your Thirsty Thursday. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, just past 6 a.m. We'll talk to you then.